The story opens on the Eastern Front, where brutal barbarian forces are locked in a fierce battle against the soldiers of the Eldoran Kingdom. The battlefield is drenched in chaos as bodies fall and weapons clash. The barbarians quickly gain the advantage, overwhelming the Eldoran army with terrifying strength and cutting through their ranks with ease. Amid the carnage stands Captain Saraphina, a determined leader who refuses to abandon her troops. Even as the situation grows hopeless, she urges her soldiers to keep fighting, trying to carve out a path for retreat. Despite her efforts, it becomes painfully clear to her that their losses are too great. Escape may no longer be possible. Then the tide worsens. A massive figure emerges from the barbarian side, Vior, an elite warrior whose sheer presence shakes the battlefield. He cuts down Eldoran soldiers effortlessly before landing directly in front of Saraphina, his blood-stained weapon towering over her. Recognizing her as the leader, Vior challenges her to a one-on-one duel. Understanding that no one else could stand against him, Saraphina accepts, hoping her sacrifice will buy time for her remaining soldiers to flee. She launches herself into the air and strikes downward, but Vior blocks her attack with ease, barely moving. With a single powerful swing, he sends her crashing back. Refusing to give up, Saraphina regains her footing and charges again. The two engage in an intense exchange, their weapons clashing again and again. Though Saraphina shows incredible skill and resilience, Vior's overwhelming strength slowly pushes her back. Realizing this is her last chance, she channels everything she has left into a final technique, enhancing her blade with magic. With a fierce cry, she meets Vior's ultimate strike head-on. Their weapons collide, and in that instant, one blade shatters. The Eldoran soldiers watch in horror as their captain stands there, defeated, holding a broken sword. Saraphina drops to her knees, accepting her loss. Surprisingly, Vior acknowledges her strength, praising her for lasting as long as she did. Prepared for death, Saraphina asks him to finish her honorably, but Vior refuses. Instead, he gives a chilling smile and declares that she'll be kept alive, for his own purposes. Everything fades to black. When Saraphina awakens, she finds herself trapped in a dark cell, her body bound in heavy chains and dressed in rags. Disoriented at first, her memories slowly return. Her defeat, her capture, and Vior's ominous words. Fear begins to consume her. Her thoughts spiral as she imagines the horrors that might await: torture, slavery, or worse. The most disturbing possibility lingers in her mind, leaving her shaken and deeply anxious. As a young noblewoman who has never known such degradation, the idea alone is enough to break her composure. Her thoughts then drift to her fallen comrades. Surrounded by enemies when she was defeated, she fears they were either slaughtered or captured like her. A heavy wave of despair crashes over her. But beyond that, she worries for her kingdom. Without control of the eastern lands, their people may lose the ability to grow crops, threatening countless lives. Overcome with regret and sorrow, the once strong captain breaks down in tears. Then suddenly, a voice interrupts the silence. Startled, Saraphina turns to see a woman named Circe entering the cell, carrying water. As Saraphina studies her, she notices tools hanging from her belt, pliers and other instruments, immediately assuming the worst. However, Circe says nothing about torture. Instead, she calmly reveals something far more unsettling. She has been sent to prepare Saraphina as a perfect trophy for King Vior. Circe secures Saraphina to the wall with chains, leaving her completely unable to move. Expecting the worst, the captured captain steels herself for whatever torture might come next. Elsewhere, outside the dungeon, Vior considers going to see her, a look of anticipation flashing in his eyes. Back in the cell, Saraphina is being carefully cleaned as Circe wipes away the dirt and blood from the battlefield. Once she's done, Saraphina, confused by the treatment, asks why so much effort is being spent on someone who is supposedly just a prisoner. Circe calmly replies that Saraphina was filthy from the fight, and she simply couldn't leave her that way. She then casually comments on Saraphina's appearance, admitting she expected someone who fought Vior so fiercely to be more physically imposing. Instead, she finds her surprisingly delicate. That remark hits Saraphina's pride, as she's always believed a knight like her has no time to worry about appearances. Sensing her reaction, Circe adds that Vior actually likes how she looks. This only deepens Saraphina's confusion. But before she can press further, Cersei's tone shifts. Holding a sharp blade and metal tools, she quietly warns Saraphina that she will never leave barbarian territory again. Thinking her end has finally come, Saraphina struggles desperately against her chains, hoping for some miracle. But as Cersei approaches, she eventually gives up and shuts her eyes, bracing herself. Instead of harm, however, something unexpected happens. Cersei cuts her free from the restraints, trims her nails, and dresses her in clean, elegant clothing. When Saraphina opens her eyes, she notices the outfit, far too refined for a prisoner, and even scented with perfume. Now completely bewildered, she wonders if this is some kind of ritual preparation. Before she can question it further, a thunderous roar echoes from above. Cersei calmly informs her that Vior has arrived. Moments later, the massive barbarian leader enters the cell. He formally introduces himself as the son of the great barbarian chief. Saraphina studies him closely, his towering frame, his striking golden eyes, and realizes he doesn't seem entirely human. She recalls old stories told by her grandfather, tales of barbarian warriors overpowering entire armies and performing brutal rituals on their enemies. Convinced she's about to suffer a similar fate, she steels herself and boldly declares that she fears nothing, daring him to do as he pleases. Vior, however, looks genuinely puzzled. He tells her she's mistaken. He has no intention of sacrificing her. Instead, he reveals the true reason she was spared. He intends to make her his bride. The words hit Saraphina like a shockwave. Her mind struggles to process what she just heard, her composure breaking as confusion and disbelief take over. Thinking it must be a joke, she questions him, but Vior makes it clear he's completely serious. Overwhelmed, she demands to know why he would choose an enemy. Vior explains that among his people, love isn't bound by sides. In fact, their traditions celebrate strength above all else. Since ancient times, their greatest kings have taken powerful female warriors as wives, honoring both battle and passion. Even with this explanation, Saraphina refuses outright, but Vior reminds her of her own words, that she dared him to do whatever he wished. Now she finds herself trapped by that very challenge. He then adds that his decision isn't just about tradition. Vior reflects on their clash during the battle, remembering the intensity and conviction Saraphina showed with every strike. In that moment, he says, he recognized the depth of her devotion as a warrior, and it was that very passion that made him fall for her. From then on, he decided that no matter the cost, she would become his wife. Hearing such an honest confession leaves Saraphina completely speechless. Overwhelmed and unable to respond, she simply stands there as Vior turns and begins to leave. Once he's gone, Saraphina is left alone, still trying to process everything. Trapped in this strange situation, she wonders what fate truly awaits her in this place. As she waits, her mind drifts back to a memory from 7 years earlier. At the time, her brother Sidious informed her that she had been selected to lead an expedition into barbarian territory. Without hesitation, she accepted the responsibility and prepared to leave. But just as she was about to go, Sidious stopped her and handed her an invitation to a noble banquet. Confused, she questioned his intentions. Sidious reminded her that beyond being a knight, she was still a noblewoman with a reputation to maintain. Seeing the seriousness in his expression, she reluctantly agreed. Later, dressed in elegant attire, Saraphina arrived at Countess Illo's mansion. However, instead of admiration, she was met with quiet judgment. The surrounding nobles whispered among themselves, criticizing her for choosing the life of a warrior. They questioned whether someone with her appearance could truly lead hardened soldiers into battle. Even though they were aware of her abilities, many believed her strength was wasted simply because she was a woman. The comments weighed heavily on her, so she stepped out onto a balcony to clear her head. There, a group of young noblewomen approached her, inviting her to join them instead of sitting alone. As they spoke, they asked if she was afraid of her dangerous duties. They mentioned terrifying stories of monsters and dragons, wondering how she could face such threats. Saraphina smiled and dismissed the idea, saying dragons were nothing more than myths. But the conversation quickly shifted back to the barbarians. Knowing their brutal reputation, the ladies urged her to abandon the mission and stay safe at home. The thought of what could happen to a female knight in enemy territory filled them with dread. At that point, Saraphina slammed her hands down, silencing them. With unwavering resolve, she declared that their kingdom desperately needed the eastern lands. Only by securing those territories could they provide enough resources for their people to survive. No matter the danger, she was determined to fight. Still, they reminded her of Princess Wisteria, her own role model, who vanished after confronting the barbarians. To them, it was proof that Saraphina should choose a safer path. Stay home, marry well, and avoid a tragic end. Frustrated by their fear and negativity, Saraphina walked away. Later, as she rode home in her carriage, she couldn't shake the disgust she felt toward the nobles who indulged in luxury while common citizens struggled to survive. On her journey, she came across a man being attacked by 3 desperate youths. They were starving peasants, driven to theft out of sheer desperation. Without hesitation, Saraphina intervened, ordering them to stop. Cornered, the boys tried to fight back using crude farming tools, but they were no match for her skill. She quickly subdued them. Believing their lives were over, the boys braced for punishment. But instead, Saraphina surprised them. Taking off her valuable necklace, she handed it to them. Shocked by her kindness, they thanked her and promised to never harm anyone again. As they left, Saraphina felt a deep ache in her heart, overwhelmed by the suffering of her people. In that moment, she made a silent vow she would return victorious from the east and bring peace and stability to her kingdom. A few days later, just before departing, she visited the shrine of the missing Princess Wisteria to pay her respects. Suddenly, Sidious appeared behind her, clearly frustrated that she hadn't found a suitable husband at the banquet. Saraphina reminded him that her duty was to fight for their kingdom. But Sidious angrily insisted that women had no place on the battlefield, raising his voice as he called out to her. Then, something strange happens. His voice begins to change, shifting into Vior's. The scene distorts as Vior steps forward, reaching out toward her, declaring once again that she will become his wife. Startled, Saraphina jolts awake from the nightmare, her body drenched in cold sweat. As she catches her breath, she hears a deep, steady snoring nearby. Turning her head, she freezes. Vior is lying right beside her. The sheer presence of his powerful body snaps her fully awake, and a wave of fear washes over her as she realizes the reality of her situation, being bound to him as his future wife. And that's where the story leaves off. The moment Saraphina catches sight of Vior's imposing physique, she snaps back to reality, inhaling sharply as fear takes over at the thought of being tied to him as his wife. After a few seconds, she steadies herself and regains control of her thoughts. Furious, she shouts at Vior for being beside her, but he calmly explains that they're in his bedroom. That only makes things worse. Shocked and outraged, she demands to know why he's lying there naked with her. Vior brushes off the question entirely, instead expressing relief that she seems all right after what happened the night before. But in Saraphina's mind, the situation spirals into something far worse. She becomes convinced that this so-called barbarian took advantage of her while she was unconscious. Unable to endure the shame, she tells him to end her life then and there. Confused, Vior questions why she would rather die than take revenge on him. Saraphina fires back, saying someone like him could never understand a woman's honor in her homeland, and therefore has no right to judge her feelings. She reminds him that not only has her dignity as a woman been threatened, but her pride as a knight has already been shattered by her defeat in battle. While Vior acknowledges her frustration, he refuses to accept that it's a reason to give up on life. Instead, he urges her to move forward and value the fact that she's still alive. Their heated exchange is interrupted when Cersei walks in with fresh clothes for Vior. Sensing the misunderstanding, she quickly explains that Saraphina had simply taken too much of a sleeping drug they administered. Vior, worried by how deeply she fell unconscious, brought her to his room to keep an eye on her. Realizing the truth, Saraphina understands that nothing inappropriate happened. Vior had only been caring for her. Even so, she lashes out at him for putting her in such a compromising situation. Vior, unfazed as always, ignores her anger and shifts his attention to something much simpler: breakfast. After getting dressed, he casually leaves the room, telling her to join him whenever she's ready. Once he's gone, Saraphina collapses onto the floor. overwhelmed by everything she's just gone through. Shame washes over her as she reflects on her situation. Being a proud knight, yet now dependent on her enemies for survival. Memories of her grandfather's teachings resurface. Despite training her, he often lamented that she was born a woman and encouraged her to abandon the path of a knight to find happiness through marriage, like her brother. Hearing those words echo in her mind again, Saraphina realizes something unsettling. Vior is the only person who has ever genuinely admired her strength as a knight. Even so, her pride won't allow her to accept his feelings. Instead, she steels herself and prepares to face whatever meal awaits her, convinced it will be something meant to humiliate her as a prisoner of war. But the moment she steps outside, she's left speechless. Before her lies an enormous slab of roasted, fatty meat, far more luxurious than anything her struggling homeland could ever provide. The sight alone makes her mouth water uncontrollably. Assuming she must be starving, Vior casually hands her a massive portion, around 10 pounds, believing it to be a normal serving for a knight. In reality, the portion is absurdly large, nearly the size of her entire torso, more meat than she would normally eat in a whole year. Saraphina becomes convinced that he's trying to win her over with this extravagant meal, and stubbornly declares that she would rather die than accept such a bribe. Unfortunately for her, her stomach loudly betrays her. Completely embarrassed, she once again demands to be put out of her misery. Vior, baffled, questions why she keeps jumping to death over every little issue. He points out that if her stomach is growling, it's proof her body wants to live. Telling her to stop overthinking, he insists she just eat. Meanwhile, Circe quietly pulls Saraphina aside and reveals something important. Despite his carefree attitude, Vior personally went out of his way to hunt that meat just for her. And more than that, she reminds Saraphina that Vior isn't just any barbarian. He's a noble among them. Realizing that rejecting his thoughtful gesture would come off as rude, Saraphina reluctantly decides to accept the meal. The moment she takes her first bite, the rich, juicy flavor completely overwhelms her senses. It's unlike anything she's ever tasted before, so tender and satisfying that it nearly brings her to tears. Vior notices how much she's enjoying it, and the instant she realizes he's watching, she quickly straightens up and pretends the food is nothing special. Trying to regain her composure, she half-heartedly forgives him for the misunderstanding earlier that morning. As she continues eating, her curiosity gets the better of her, and she asks about the creature the meat came from. Vior casually explains that it has already been butchered and that his men are currently processing the remains outside. Expecting something ordinary like livestock, Saraphina peeks out, only to freeze in shock at the sight of a massive, fearsome dragon. Stunned, she wonders if it's one of the legendary fire-breathing beasts she's heard about. Vior chuckles and explains that while such dragons do exist, this particular one is harmless and feeds on plants. Despite learning this, she's baffled by how casually he treats such a creature, especially since she's been devouring it without hesitation. After finishing the meal, Vior invites her to step outside with him. Still wary, Saraphina hesitates, unsure if she can trust him. He teases that she might simply be afraid of what lies beyond, which irritates her enough to accept his invitation. Even so, she warns him that her trust hasn't been earned. Vior acknowledges this, but confidently assures her that she'll be amazed by what she sees. The moment she steps outside, she's taken aback. Instead of the barren battlefield she expected, she's greeted by a peaceful landscape filled with lush greenery and thriving wildlife. Seeing her reaction, Vior explains that while their battleground was desolate, the rest of their land is rich and full of life. As they walk further, Saraphina can't help but observe everything around her. She even spots a dragon soaring through the sky, prompting Vior to explain that such creatures are simply part of their natural environment. Though difficult to hunt, they rarely pose a threat unless provoked. Saraphina finds it unsettling how casually he speaks about them, especially when he reminds her that she had just eaten one for breakfast. Embarrassed, she falls silent and continues walking. Soon, a gentle humming sound reaches her ears. Drawn by curiosity, she follows it, only to stop in awe at the sight of a crystal-clear waterfall. The beauty of it leaves her speechless, and she blurts out that she's never seen anything like it before. Vior asks if her homeland lacks such sights, and though she initially tries to deny it, she eventually remembers that her kingdom truly doesn't have landscapes like this. Sensing her discomfort, Vior quickly reassures her that he wasn't trying to boast. He simply wanted to share something beautiful with her. Then, without hesitation, he removes his shirt and tells her to do the same. Caught off guard, Saraphina immediately questions his intentions. However, he casually explains that he only plans for them to bathe. Her mind jumps to the worst conclusions, but he clarifies that it's nothing inappropriate. Still, she firmly insists that bathing together is unacceptable between a man and a woman. Vior shrugs it off, explaining that their customs are different and such things aren't an issue for him. Just then, Cersei steps in and reminds Saraphina that she hasn't cleaned herself since the battle. If she doesn't wash soon, she'll carry the smell of blood and dirt with her. Reluctantly, Saraphina agrees to bathe, but only on the condition that Vior keeps his distance. He accepts, leaving her to the water while Cersei stays by her side. Even then, Saraphina can't help but remain cautious, convinced that Cersei is there not just to assist her, but to keep a close watch. Cersei quickly reassures Saraphina that she isn't spying on her, but simply staying close to keep her safe. Saraphina is still trying to process that when, out of nowhere, a massive snapping turtle suddenly emerges. Startled out of her wits, she scrambles onto a nearby rock, while Cersei calmly explains that the area is filled with unusual creatures that might look frightening at first. To her, they're harmless, but to Saraphina, they're straight out of a nightmare. Things only get worse when she spots even more bizarre, almost monstrous-looking animals nearby. Completely overwhelmed, she panics and bolts away from the waterfall. Cersei watches her go, concerned, but doesn't follow once she realizes where Saraphina is heading. After running for a while, Saraphina finally slows down and catches her breath, only to realize she left her clothes behind. As she tries to think of what to do next, a loud bird cry startles her again. Steeling herself, she decides to head back, but suddenly hears a man calling out to her. Her thoughts immediately jump to the worst-case scenario, and she braces herself, fearing she's about to be taken advantage of. As the stranger approaches, she backs away and warns him to keep his distance, but he continues forward. When she finally gets a clear look at his face, she's caught off guard. He's unexpectedly handsome. For a moment, she compares him to the men from her homeland, but then remembers her vulnerable state and quickly tells him to stay back again. The man stops and, instead of reacting aggressively, simply observes her situation. Realizing she likely fled from her bath in fear, he doesn't mock her. Instead, he gently explains that his mother was from the Western lands too, and she used to react the same way to the unfamiliar wildlife. She would often tell him stories about her homeland, one that lacked the kind of nature found here, much like Saraphina's. Hearing this, Saraphina is stunned and begins to wonder if his mother could have been one of the knights who disappeared during her grandfather's campaign. Lost in thought, she barely notices as the man removes his outer clothing and drapes it around her for warmth and modesty. He then offers to take her back so she can retrieve her things. Surprised by his kindness, she starts to question her assumptions about barbarians, even wondering if Vior might just be an unusual case among them. As she stands there, flustered, the man steps closer and checks her forehead, concerned she might have a fever. His sudden closeness leaves her completely embarrassed. Deciding she's too shaken to walk back on her own, he lifts her into his arms and begins carrying her. Not long after, Cersei finds them together and casually remarks on how easily her master seems to have handled Saraphina. Hearing Vior's name, everything clicks. Saraphina finally realizes the stranger is actually Vior himself, just without his beard. Shocked and furious at being tricked, she immediately slaps him. Vior, however, only laughs it off and even praises her spirited reaction. As they make their way back, Cersei wonders aloud if he'll be all right, while Saraphina snaps that she would have challenged him to a duel if she had her sword. She also blames him for putting her in such a terrifying situation. Cersei calmly explains that the area is actually safe, as Vior regularly patrols it to keep dangerous creatures away. Vior adds that he respected her wish for privacy while bathing. Otherwise, he would have stayed nearby to protect her. This leads Saraphina to question whether creatures like dragons are truly harmless. Vior explains that while dragons are powerful, they're usually timid and avoid conflict unless provoked. Cersei quickly points out that only someone as strong as Vior would casually call dragons cowards. Turning back to Saraphina, Vior admits he enjoyed seeing this more vulnerable side of her. Embarrassed by the attention, Saraphina brushes it off, quietly thanking him for showing her the beautiful scenery before storming off. Still, as they head home, she can't help but think that being married to him might not be so bad, especially considering how handsome he looked without his beard. Unfortunately for her, just a few days later, he's grown it all back, completely ruining that image. That wraps up episode 2. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.